Good evening to all the spectators out there, our Go Howdy family that is joining us for yet another round of Go Howdy Live. The entire crew has joined us this evening. We have Jerry and Cody here with us. And guys, I would like to start with some breaking news in the college football world. And that is the GOAT of the NFL, not Tom Brady, but Bill Belichick, is going to be walking the sidelines of a college football team next season. He officially agreed today to become the new head coach at North Carolina. Didn't say I saw that one coming.
Where is North Carolina getting all this money? First, they get Mac Brown, which, I mean, he's been in the college football world, yes, but he's a national championship winning coach. And then they get Bill Belichick. Are they just flush with money that I'm not aware of over there?
Yeah, they're a good basketball school, man. Like
basketball, though.
That brings football. But it still brings in. They are one of the basketball teams. I mean, Michael Jordan went there. Vince Carter went there. Tyler Hansborough. They got tons of money, and then, not to mention they're a private school with probably a very vast alumni network.
Okay, yeah, that's probably what I didn't know.
They've got the backing of Michael Jordan.
They're selective. They're very tough to get into school.
I think Duke is the private one, and North Carolina is public.
Yeah, so like some public schools really mess me up. Like Pennsylvania University is an Ivy League school. That is something you would never guess on your own if you're just getting introduced to the college system.
We have a high school friend that graduated from North Carolina. We can just ask him. He's on the West Coast. He's still awake. I think he may have just gotten off of work. What time is it over there?
I don't know. He works for one of those big companies. They might have him on the rise and grind for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to throw all his business out there, but
sleeps.
Is that Seattle? No, it's New York.
No, it's New York. Yeah, no, I was just making a joke.
Seattle, sleep, same thing.
Seattle, the rainy city. Never stops raining over there.
Yeah, they do have money. UNC, regardless of who they are, they have money. And I know you don't think that basketball brings in any money, but they find a way to keep doing it. So it must bring in something. So, of all programs, UNC is the basketball program.
But did you hear what his contract is?
Actually,
3 years, $30 million.
Yeah, that's not that hard to get.
Wow.
For
a basketball school?
Yeah.
I mean,
Jerry, you're grossly underestimating. Football is the top sport in America, hands down, but it's really high up, right? It's like saying, so K2 is the highest mountain in the world or whatever. Mount Everest is still a high mountain, right? However they do it, like they're what and what. It's like it's still high up there. Basketball still makes tons of money.
Yeah, and let's not act like the UNC football program has just been down in the dumps. I mean, ever since Mac Brown's been there, they've been doing well. They've been bringing in revenue. They're part of the ACC. They don't make as much as the SEC does, but they still bring in money over there.
Yeah, they're not broke, Jerry.
And they've got the backings of Michael Jordan. So I mean, MJ is still giving money to that school. And,
is he though?
How do you know he's not? People assume
how do you know that he is?
People for LSU are like, the chicken finger man gives us money, but you're like, the greatest basketball player of all time wouldn't give his alumni any money.
I mean, that's absolutely true.
Finger, man.
But I mean, according to chapelbro.com, UNC got $33.2 million in the TV rights. That, I mean, basketball does not bring that much money.
Jerry, yes, it does. Like March Madness is one of I would even say March Madness is America's favorite sporting event next to the Super Bowl.
1, false. 2, that is the NCAA as a whole. What does the university bring in? I can look this up quite quickly.
They bring in being one of the best programs at that thing I just said.
And it only probably brings in about $4 million annually.
Wow, that is grossly under. They make that probably in hat sales in the stadium.
Okay.
Jerry, you can't win this argument. Basketball is the number 2 sport in America, by far.
I do not believe that is true either.
It is by far the number 2 sport in America.
Okay, I got some research to do before we get going into the next topic. My lovely wife, we do an annual ornament swap. this is what it is this year. Thought it was quite appropriate for
nice.
what it is. So the color is a little off, but I mean it is the colors of the Go Howdy logo. So thank you to my lovely wife for that.
It's okay. She's
or-
an Aggie at heart. That's all it was.
South Alabama. So I mean red, white, and blue.
Oh,
That
yeah.
makes sense.
That's
Now
that's true.
y'all go ahead and start the next segment. Cody, I'm gonna school your butt. Please hold.
Well, while Jerry is doing his research behind the scenes, we're going to jump into the segment
Yeah,
that we
just-
were going
just
to
like-
do.
Just a quick interruption. The first thing you Google, ESPN, NCAA generates nearly 1.3 billion in revenue, 1.15 billion, and they estimate 1.28 billion off of NCAA.
Notice that you didn't say anything about Tar Heels.
Sorry, NCAA basketball revenue. So I'm just telling you.
Great, that's fantastic. That doesn't mean that Tar Heels are getting
Jerry,
any of that.
Imagine being the best program, one of the best programs in that share pool. You'll get a lot of money.
Sliver of that money, because you know the NCAA is absolutely greedy. That is not anywhere close
All right,
to
Jerry.
what the Tar Heels
All right,
get.
Jerry.
I'm
You're right.
gonna-
No one watches basketball. No one plays basketball. It's not the number one gambling event in the world, the tournament. You're right. Nobody does anything with the tournaments. On to college football. Because apparently basketball doesn't
from
exist.
Cody's mouth is overwhelming.
You're
at
right.
this
No,
hour.
Jerry, you're right. And I hope the viewers agree with you that basketball doesn't exist. No one watches it. It's like soccer. You know, it doesn't bring in any money.
Kyle, did you hear me say anything about people not watching basketball? I'm just questioning the fact that North Carolina does not bring in that much money to pay a coach
That's not crazy.
$30 million
money for
over 3
college.
years.
That's not crazy money for a
He-
program
he's
like
just-
them.
He's just spewing out, oh yeah, the Tar Heels, they like to sell popcorn. Like, that's great. It's not going to be $40 million
Jerry-
in popcorn sales.
Jerry, when you're do you think Alabama brings in a lot of money?
Yes.
Okay.
But
UNC
the Tar Heels are
is-
not playing in a
the
80
Tar
to
Heels-
100,000 seating capacity arena. I've been to that arena. It's tiny.
Yeah,
it
but
is
they play
a
more
small
games.
arena.
They
Yeah,
play more
and you-
games. They get sponsorships. They get on TV too. They have TV
And,
deals too. ACC has the best TV media deal for basketball.
I will tell you exactly how much money the Tar Heels basketball program gets as
Mhm.
long as it's public information. Because if they are indeed private, then obviously probably won't get that number. But Kyle, please
Yeah, Kyle.
continue.
Is it my turn now? Is that word? Okay. All right, good. All I know is that you two sound like a married couple. So I'm going to have to be a counselor, mediator here between the two of you. But
We've been a
Moving
married couple
on.
since middle school.
Essentially.
it sounds
And-
like it.
First, BS calling on you, Cody. According to statscore.com, which I have never seen before,
Kyle,
football,
This is
American football, number 1, baseball, number 2,
in terms of what?
TV viewing record.
Record or like a total number now?
TV viewing record. And
Like,
this
what does that
article was-
mean? What does TV viewing record mean?
I don't know. I'm not from
Okay.
StatScore.
Okay.
I'm just
All right,
saying
sure,
that's
okay.
what it is. And
Okay.
this article was written some time ago. But anywho,
Sometime
at least
ago.
one website says that.
With this made up thing, TV viewing record.
No, it's not made up. It's on the internet.
Can't be false if it's on the internet, right? That's what we're learning in today's age and time. Can't be false. It's got to be true. But
Absolutely 100% correct.
so let's get on to what this podcast is really about, and it's not basketball, although we will become a basketball podcast, before too long when we start tackling the SEC and all their basketball glory. But we are still in football season, and not only that, while we're at the end of football season, we are giving out our votes for the All SEC team. We've gone through our offense already, so if the spectators missed that, I encourage you guys to go back on YouTube and check out one of our later, more recent episodes that had the All SEC offensive team on it. But tonight, let's break down the other side of the ball, the side that everybody says wins championships, and that is going to be defense. So there was a lot of back and forth on how we were going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys I picked an edge, an interior lineman, one linebacker, a safety, and a cornerback. I kept it very simple with mine. Now, you guys go into whatever detail you would like,
So,
but
name those positions again.
I did edge, interior, just one linebacker, and then a safety and a corner.
Okay, that's how many I picked.
That's it. Okay, good. So it sounds like we're all on the same page. So let's start with one of the positions that has been one of the more paid positions when it comes to the NFL, and that is the edge rusher. So I'm going to go to Cody. I was going to go Jerry, but I'm going to give it to Cody. Cody, tell us your pick for edge rusher.
I don't think there's many people who will disagree with this. It's Kyle Kennard. Stole the show, stole the SEC's hearts this year, came on over from his ACC prison, and now he's been unleashed upon us. Excellent. I'm so happy the Gators didn't have to play him this year. Crazy talented player. I don't even, like, in the next player I would have picked besides him was, that's how far away they are. Like, I can't even imagine any of these people actually holding up to him. But I would say probably Sertain Perkins is probably second in my list. But I think it's a distant second. I think Kyle Kennard's that good.
So I agree with Cody. Kyle Kennard definitely got it. It's also kind of interesting because according to NCAA, Perkins from Ole Miss that he also brought up is listed as a linebacker, and Kyle Kennard is a D lineman. So
they're both edges. They play on the edge of the line.
Okay.
That's why we chose edge, because some people call them linebackers, some people call them D ends. It's just edge now.
Still, Kyle Kennard got my vote.
I cannot believe y'all didn't give my guy Nick Scorton any love there, because that's actually who I went with for my pick. And yeah, maybe I'm a little bit of a homer, but Nick Scorton was leading the nation in tackles for loss. So
Kyle, I don't know how you're doing it, but your video is showing your eyes moving, but no mouth movement. It is the most perfect ventriloquism act I have ever seen. Bravo.
How do you know I'm not doing that?
You must be.
Yeah, you don't know the lengths of which how deep the Kool-Aid goes, Jerry. If you had to partake, you would know these powers too.
I knew fish camp was something interesting. I didn't realize it was that interesting.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of cool tricks that are being thrown out there at fish camp. So but no, ventriloquism was not one of them. But I did go with Nick Scorton here. Like I said, led the nation in tackles for loss. And also recorded 5 sacks on the year, if I'm not mistaken. So I know Kennard had a great season, and I did not compare their stats head to head to see which one had more in which category. But I'm a homer. I'm just going to give it to Nick Scorton. That's my vote.
Yeah, you get your homer badge for this one.
I think you're wrong about leading the nation.
At one point, I said at one point in time he was. I did not say.
He did say at one point.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, which is going to be one. Which makes sure it's definitely a harder stat to go back and track. But he was significantly behind Kennard in sacks. Like, we're talking not even on the scoreboard.
Yeah, I mean, even on the NCAA website, tackles for loss, the number one SEC player is Kyle Kennard, but the number one player in general is Mike Green out of Marshall. Which they lost their entire team.
Yeah, man, this is a tough pick here with Scorton, man. He ranks 20th in total. He's tied for 19th with 6 other players, but I'm sorry, for total sacks, his total tackles is not really adding up. He has a few. I mean, he has a few, but it's okay, but what makes him better than Braden Swinson?
I'm going to use the Kyle logic and say that Harold Perkins gets my nod for the best linebacker of the year.
It's fine. You have a vote.
Because he was smart enough to skip this season?
He was doing very good for 3 games before he got injured. I'm sorry, Kyle. I had to.
You're allowed to have a vote and an opinion. Doesn't mean it's right, just like it doesn't mean mine's right. But that's just who I went with. So, but just to further my case, I mean, he was voted onto the All-SEC first team this year. It was behind Kennard, obviously, but he did make the All-SEC first team. So obviously, me trying to be an aspiring media member, somebody agreed with me because he made it on there. So
Quite a few if he's first team.
I think
He is
Kyle
first
Kennard's an
team.
All-American, right?
I
Wouldn't
wouldn't doubt
surprise
that.
me.
I wouldn't doubt that one bit. All right. Well, since y'all don't like my pick for edge, that's fine. It's my opinion. It's my story. I'm sticking to it. Let's move to the position right beside them, which would be interior. Now, the guy I picked played a little interior, sometimes bumped out to the edge. So again, I'm kind of going off of not necessarily qualifications here, but just kind of going with my pick. And I chose the former Texas A&M Aggie, Walter Nolan. I don't know how anybody could go against that pick.
Jerry, you want to go next?
Yeah, so the defensive side of the ball was extremely difficult for me because ESPN doesn't like to really rank anything other than just tackles, sacks, and like not even hurries. And the NCAA website is as helpful as asking my 3-year-old daughter who she thinks should be it. So I kind of went the fantasy football route. And as far as if I was to do a defensive line minus Kyle Kennard because he is a nationally known player, I'm choosing like the Ole Miss defensive line. I mean, they led the nation in sacks. They led the nation in tackles for losses. They were suffocating in the run game. I mean, they performed extremely well throughout the season. I mean, for me, the defensive line, just like how we see the award for the best offensive line in the nation, they should get the best defensive line in the nation.
Yeah, I went with Walter Nolan too. I mean, it's Ole Miss across the board, one way or the other, and Walter Nolan's in Jerry's pick. I don't know if there was and he was a player you had to watch to understand how good he was, because I don't think the stats will reflect just how dominant he was. But yeah, I'll give Walter Nolan. I think Walter Nolan's going to make a team very good on the interior in the NFL.
Oh yeah, he's definitely going to step in and be somebody that, even in his rookie season is going to have an impact. Not saying he's going to lead the league in anything, but you'll definitely know which team he's on, and you'll hear his name called a lot on Sundays for being a reckoning on the interior. All right, well, I'm glad we all agreed on that one since y'all all threw my pick for edge in the dirt, so I appreciate that. But let's move on. Let's go to the guy that plays behind them. Some would call the captain of the defense, and that's going to be the linebacker. Now, again, we did not specify between outside, inside. We're just picking one linebacker that we thought was the best this season. And Jerry, I'm going to let you kick this one off.
Man, so this one was really tough for me, primarily because I just couldn't keep up with anyone, and I'm not paying for the PFF score. That's just not in our budget at the moment. So it is like where you had a homer pick on the defensive end. I'm choosing a homer pick and doing Whit Weeks. The reason for it is that he stepped up in some huge shoes with Harold Perkins being out for the season, and he made he is the reason why LSU's defense had such a positive shift right after Harold Perkins got injured. Because I'm sure y'all would agree, LSU's defense was trying to do too much with him. And once he got injured, it's like, screw it, let's just play defense. And Whit Weeks did exceptionally well. And his stats are backing it up. He won't win the award for the best linebacker in the nation, but the kid's good. He's very, very good, and that's why I would choose him, because the combination just couldn't keep up with all the SEC linebackers and the amount of an impact that he made once he was a starter.
I looked for every reason not to give this to Whit Weeks, and it really started with the fact that I was just not happy with y'all's defensive performance. And a lot of people, if you get into the pro football talk about who the best linebacker of all time is, they bring up stat arguments all the time against Ray Lewis with LeVar Arrington and some other linebackers around the league. But the difference is they never brought home a championship. The difference is they never made that play on TV that shut the game down. They're never the guys who led a defense to be the number one defense in the nation. However, the SEC had a slew of people do that and not be able to bring their defense to anything special. So I brought it down to 3 people: Stone Blanton, Whit Weeks, and Danny Stutzman. And of the 3 of them, none of their defenses shined. I mean, Oklahoma had one great week against Alabama, which is the better opponent, but it's not like Danny did that on his own. So I guess when he came down to it, it has to be Whit Weeks. It was not the greatest year for SEC defenses. And the defenses it was great for was not because of their linebackers. Yeah, Whit Weeks isn't going to go on anybody's short list of best linebacker in the country. You know, you got a lot of good guys up there in the Big Ten. You're probably going to take that. But I think for the SEC this year, it was Whit Weeks. Just statistically, he's more significant to his team than anyone else I could find as far as the linebacker position is concerned.
I'm going to throw a name out there that, again, is a little bit different. But no, I didn't go with a homer pick on this one. I actually went to my most hated team in the SEC, and I went with Anthony Hill Jr., and I just want to read off his stats to kind of back up my my pick here. He had 90 tackles. He led that Texas defense, which, as we all know, is a very, very good defense, probably number 1 or number 2 in the nation if you compare them against all the other teams. But 47 solo tackles in 13 games, 43 assists, 90 combined. He had 16 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, 1 interception, and he also forced 4 fumbles on the season. So, and I know just watching him play against Texas A&M, he played spy on Marcel Reed, and I consider Marcel Reed to be a very good athlete and pretty fast. He couldn't outrun Anthony Hill sideline to sideline. Every time he tried to break out of the pocket and take off, Anthony Hill had his number. And that's not just in the A&M game. I mean, you can go back and look at, I do watch a lot of Texas games, even though I can't really stand them. And if you watch them play, that kid is flying around all over the football field. There's not much that gets past him. So I went with Anthony Hill Jr., and I see he didn't even make the media's SEC first team, which is kind of shocking to me. They gave him second team. But
you know what, Kyle? I got to give it to you. I think actually your pick is going to age better than ours.
Maybe in the long run. This would be something that maybe in a couple seasons from now we can bookmark this episode and come back to it because, I always love pats on the back. But I do understand both of y'all's pick though with Whit Weeks. You can't go wrong with the Honky Badger. He definitely stepped up, on a defense that was hurting at a lot of positions this season, with some injuries and some position changes. He really stepped up and did a good job for the LSU defense. So I did consider him, but ultimately when I looked at probably who had the greater impact for their team, I just went with Anthony Hill Jr., in my opinion. But let's get into some more complex picks here because we know, with all the new defensive schemes that people are running, you got your 4-2-5, you got your 3-3-5, some teams even run that 3-2-6. You've got multiple defensive backs all over the field at any given time. So we're going to keep it fairly simple here, and let's start with our pick let's go to the outside first. Let's go to corner. So, Cody, who did you have for the all-SEC corner, in your opinion?
This one's going to be a controversial one. So, this was the hardest position group for me, was cornerback specifically, because and this is what I'm going to go off of, true lockdown corner. Right? Like we're talking, no one wants to throw to my side of the ball. No one wants to see, or your guy just looks blanketed from the start. I had to watch more film than I care to admit to come to this conclusion, but I think the truest lockdown corner is Trey Amos from Ole Miss this year. I don't know if he benefited from a great defensive line, but quarterback sure did not like throwing at him this year. He was solid when he needed to be in the tackling game. He doesn't have a lot of picks to his name, but again, Darrelle Revis, his best year in the NFL, I think he only had like 2 or 3 interceptions. It's not about that. It's about what you take away from the offense, not just what you produce for the defense. And I think he does an amazing job shutting down the field, cutting it in half. There are a bunch of guys who probably qualify as good cornerbacks here, but as a true lockdown, old school, man-to-man guy, I got to go with Trey Amos.
Yeah, I mean, Cody, you're not wrong. This is a very difficult position to say, this is the guy. Because like what if you were to think about what like Patrick Peterson, Derek Stingley, or like Tyrann Mathieu was able to do, like Tyrann Mathieu was a bad example. He forced turnovers. He did a lot of work. But like Patrick Peterson, he didn't have a lot of stats to his name because it was just kind of like an anomaly. They just never threw that side of the ball. So for me, it was similar to what I had to do with the defensive line. And the one defensive backs group that stood out the most to me was Georgia. Like I believe it was the game against Texas. Like they had two defensive backs get ejected for targeting, and it was just next man up, and they are performing extremely well. Yeah, the statistics does show that it's Texas defensive backs that are statistically better, but I mean, there's just something about that Georgia team, especially in the defense or the defensive backs for the Georgia team. Just they're scary. I would not want my LSU offense to go against that Georgia backfield.
Yeah, that's a good pick for both you guys. I agree with Georgia, especially watching them in the SEC championship game, what they were able to do. Really shutting down that Texas passing attack for the most part. They did have some busted coverages and some explosive plays, but for the most part, they kept that Texas offense under bay. So I think that's a great thing to highlight them. Cody, I got to agree with you on this one here. I also went with Trey Amos. It was almost a coin flip for me between Will Lee III from Texas A&M and Trey Amos. But when I came down to it, here's the stat that really stood out to me and why I went with Trey Amos. Is I go to pass deflections or PBUs, pass breakups. And while Will Lee had just as much interceptions, just as many tackles, didn't have as many tackles for a loss. When you look at a guy like Trey Amos, he broke up 13 passes this year. And Will Lee only had like 4 or 5. So if you think about that, and that's kind of what you highlighted, is a true, like, I'm not throwing at that guy. And when I do throw at him, he's having an impact on almost every ball that's thrown his way. Or here's a stat that I would like to see that I know they may have analytics wise, because we know they're way over top when it comes to analytics nowadays. But if you could look at what we would call a coverage sack, everybody's covered up or looking at which receivers are not there, not open.
Oh, yeah.
I believe Trey Amos is a guy that would contribute a lot to coverage sacks, because I don't think there was many times this year you could go back and watch film that somebody actually got more than a couple yards separation on that guy. So he's another guy that, is going to get drafted and is going to hear his name a lot come Sundays playing for some NFL team. All right, that will bring us to our last position, and probably one of the most versatile positions on the field, maybe. That might be a controversial statement, but let's go with the safety pick here. So, Jerry, let's start with you on this one. Who is your safety pick?
Got to just go back to the Georgia pick. There really wasn't one that I could just point my finger at because I just didn't have the statistics. The safety was grouped up with the defensive backs for Georgia for me.
All right, Jerry.
Okay.
That is a I didn't do my homework pick if I ever heard one.
I mean, because a little bit of that, but also a little bit is like I legitimately don't know that much.
Well, I'll tell you, I think this definitely belongs to Nick Amonwari from South Carolina. He does play safety-ish. It's more or less he's an inside defensive back or over-the-top defensive back. I don't see him on the edge as much. He did play on the edge a few times, but he's a defensive back that moves around the field a little bit more. Had 2 interceptions returned for a touchdown, 4 total interceptions on the year. Had 52 total tackles as a defensive back. So he's playing up to the line of scrimmage, South Carolina's aggressive defense. He should have had 3 interceptions returned for a touchdown. This man is lethal when he gets the ball in his hands, but we all know how blocking a quarterback is illegal, and we should have never done that. So, yeah, he should have had a much bigger stat block. He is a force to be reckoned with. He kind of reminds me a little bit like of a blend of like if Troy Polamalu and Champ Bailey were a little bit of a blend of those two players. Like not as fast as Champ Bailey, not as versatile, obviously, and also not as like impactful with his hits as Troy Polamalu, but has that all over the field feel to him. but with a little bit more size.
That's a great comparison. So we now know who did their homework. We know who didn't do their homework, and we know the guy who just likes to pick guys from his own team. But I did not.
Was that
I didn't go
foreshadowing?
with it. No, it was not. It was not foreshadowing on this one. I actually had the same name wrote down as you, Cody, and I don't know how anybody can argue. I actually have him down for 4 interceptions this year. I know you said he took 2 back to the house, should have had 3. But when you look at a guy that plays safety that leads your team in total combined tackles and almost leads outright in solo tackles, that's another guy that you're just seeing his number fly around on the football field. And that's a guy that's getting to the ball, but also is making breaks on the ball and kind of being that ball hawk safety on the back end. So, uh, a close second for me was Malachi Moore from Alabama. If you look at kind of the impact that he had, was second on his team in tackles, had a lot of pass breakups. Only had 1 interception on the year, but had a lot of pass breakups and a lot of tackles. So I just really got a sentimental value to Malachi Moore for one morning on game day. He had a real touching story, but I'm gonna pick with my brain here and not my heart and say it's got to be our guy from South Carolina. I mean, how do you take 4 interceptions, 2 back to the house, 3 technically, and not win the pick for outright? Maybe even outright defensive player of the year altogether. But that might go to his partner Kennard down there on the defensive line. Well, I think we did ourselves some justice here. I think those are all pretty good picks. A lot of names that our spectators can, go and do some research on, or some names to maybe look out for next year. I'm not sure if all these guys are seniors are going to be leaving. Might even see some names in the transfer portal. Hopefully not, but is also always a possibility when it comes to stuff like this.
So
Yeah, Jerry,
speaking of that, the SEC actually announced the players of the year today. So offensive player of the year, I believe Cody and Kyle, you may have been right. Dylan Sampson got that award.
Telling you.
Kyle Kennard did get defensive player of the year. Alex Rayner with Kentucky got special teams player of the year, scoring 71 points with a 93.8% accuracy.
That might be all their points.
Basically, what is crazy though is that none of his kicks occurred between 1 yard and 19 yards.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
The majority of his kicks occurred between 30 and 39 yards. He's 2 for 2 from 50 plus yards out with his longest of 55.
Wow.
So bravo to the place kicker for Kentucky.
Bro, as bad as kicking has been in the NFL right now, he has got to be like, some people are just sliding him into that draft board. Like, look,
right.
Owner, hear me out. I'm telling you, we need to make this pick.
Right. And here, and the other one, obvious one that I believe we all got right. Will Campbell got the offensive player of the year, or I'm sorry, the Jacobs blocking trophy, which I believe is the offensive lineman of the year, and Kelvin Banks out of Texas. It was like a joint award there. Norris Sellers out of South Carolina gets freshman of the year. Controversially, in my opinion, Clark Lee out of Vanderbilt gets the coach of the year.
Let's talk about that.
I mean,
I think Frank Beamer had such a better season than him.
I think it's Shane Beamer, by the way.
Oh yeah, Frankie Shane, Shane Frankie.
Frankie's his dad. Yes, Frankie
Beamer.
Shane.
Yeah. I mean, Clark Lee is also a solid pick. The fact that Vanderbilt did what Vanderbilt did was quite impressive, but I mean, it's still hard to believe that Shane Beamer was not the coach of the year. He's literally like 2 plays away from being 11-1 and being in the college football playoff.
Yeah, like they both had fantastically tough schedules, so it's hard to like even say one did, but like South Carolina did more with their tough schedule than Vanderbilt did, and not only that, they produced more All-Americans and All-SEC than Vanderbilt did. If you would have asked me at the beginning of the year how many All-Americans would be on that South Carolina roster, a fat 0 would have come out of my mouth without hesitation.
Right.
But here we are looking down the barrel of 2 of them looking like they're going to be very big NFL prospects.
Seriously.
Yeah, I think Again, we go back to the early episodes. I called Shane Beamer a gimmick, and I am seriously eating those words right now. But you know, I think there's a point to be made that he could be coach of the year. When I think about that pick, I just look at what Vanderbilt was last year, and then to see where they ended up this year. South Carolina didn't have a bad year last year, and that's not taking anything away from Shane Beamer. I just think because of the turnaround that Vanderbilt had from one year to the next is probably why Clark Lee ended up getting that selection there. So,
Right.
go ahead, Jerry. I see you have another topic you want to dive into.
Yeah. So this is actually pretty big breaking news. Garrett Nussmeier out of LSU announced that he is returning for his final year of eligibility, which, I mean, for me, that is fantastic news. But I was curious to get y'all's opinion about that. Like, how big of a deal is that?
I mean, if you just look at what he did this season, and knowing that there is a guy behind him that was watching and learning from him this year, I think that's huge. I mean, it's probably one of the most, if not the most important position on the football field, right? You don't have a good
Oh yeah.
quarterback, it makes things very, very tough for you. So, being that you got a guy like that, which that is shocking for me to hear that he's not going to try to cash in and just go ahead and go to the NFL and come back for one more season. But it does make sense a little bit when I think about a guy who, came to LSU, waited his turn, right? And so maybe he's just, it's like, well, I didn't just come here to sit and only play for one season. I'm going to come back and, I sat out for a reason. I waited my time out, which a lot of kids don't do anymore, but I sat here and took my lumps. So yeah, I'm gonna get more than one season in.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not like that he was weak in the draft, like the draft board. Like I think he was rated the fourth best quarterback in the current draft eligible players. So I mean, he would have gone fairly high. So to see him actually decide to come back uh, and decide that he wants to try to bring a championship to LSU, I mean, I'm thrilled. I love it. Cody, what
So
do you think?
so what? Yeah, excuse the audio shift. However, what do you think is going to be the story with what he has to come back to? Because he loses his offensive line, he loses pieces of his offensive line. Let's be clear. He's probably going to lose some of his talented receiver,
Oh no, he's lost at least three receivers.
and he's lost. Are you including his tight end?
Oh no, you're right. So that's about four or five right there. Like there's no tight end room. He's going to lose Kyron Lacey, and he's also lost another one. But he does bring back Anderson, which is a big deal. We have a stacked running back room, and LSU is hitting the transfer portal hard, not only on defensive backs like we desperately need, but receivers as well. There's some big names that I don't want to get too far ahead until it's official, like A&M picking up that UAB quarterback. But there's a lot of rumors going around that he's going to just be reloaded at the receiver position. So I think he's going to have a lot to work with. And the fact that he's making that announcement is probably going to help quite a bit get some big name transfers.
I think LSU's schedule next year too is supposed to be pretty easy.
It's not too bad. That's the other thing that the SEC office announced is the home and away schedules, which I think is a good topic of discussion later. But if y'all are ready to move on, I actually have the official matchup for the bowl season. If y'all want to review that and see what we think is going to happen.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at that myself because I did not get to see who both of your teams drew in the bowl season this year. So I only knew about A&M, but I was able to quickly research that. And let's see. I see you bringing it up on the screen here.
Just thought the spectators would like to see it for themselves. So this is every single bowl game. I went ahead and circled the ones that are affiliated with our teams, obviously. So the first one that's going to occur is Tulane versus Florida. That's December 7th
In the
at
Gasparilla Bowl.
yes. I mean, Tulane is a hot team right now.
They don't have a quarterback.
They don't have a quarterback, no, but their coach is coming back. But I don't think this is really going to be a matchup for me. Florida gets the nod.
They should. If they lose this game, because they have a lot of guys opting into this game. I haven't heard much rumor about any of those guys opting out. So, yeah, this is you have to win this bowl. This is unfortunately for Florida. The pressure is on this bowl season. It's definitely going to leave a mark on people's but like what they feel Florida is capable of going forward.
I think I'm just happy to see, and I think it's probably across the board for all three of our teams. I'm happy to see guys opting in to the bowl game. Typically,
Right.
if you don't make the playoff, then everybody starts opting out. I'm gonna get ready for the draft. Maybe that is the one positive of NIL so far, is that guys are going to be a little more likely to play in their bowl games. Maybe they've got some bonuses or some extra incentives through the NIL. I don't know how all that works because I haven't been in those meetings.
I agree. That sounds like a really good thing to keep NIL in like good graces with people. Just be like, oh, well, then we'll pay you a bonus if you play. Because I feel like a lot of these guys who know they're not going to the NFL or who know the NFL is going to be a sketchy experience. What's the average career? 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, that's true.
Take that money.
Take it and run. So, I think Florida is obviously the pick, knowing that Tulane is their quarterback is not going to be there. And just like you said, the amount of guys that are opting in for Florida and kind of buying into that rebuilding culture, I think that also says a lot about Billy Napier too. If those guys are opting in to play an extra game for him, obviously he's doing something right behind the scenes.
Exactly. So the next game that we have coming up for the SEC, Texas is hosting Clemson in the first round of the playoffs. This one, I think I'm actually going to choose Clemson. I think the Dabo's experience in this world is going to be a little too much for Texas to handle, and it looks like that Clemson is peaking at the right time. So I actually like Clemson in this matchup.
I don't know. Jerry's pretty bad on upsets this year. I guess he just kind of revealed what I should probably do. Yeah, Jerry's terrible against the spread. I'll take Texas in this one. I don't think Texas has any need to worry about this Clemson team. They're a pretty solid team. They just have to take them seriously, actually plan for this game, and not worry about the fact that you don't have the bye over someone like Arizona State, despite your strength of schedule being something like double digits apart.
Yeah, that's definitely a topic we could go on for hours about. However, the telltale sign in this game is going to be which team gets out of the gate the fastest. Clemson has a ability this year to start pretty fast in their games. Take a look at the ACC championship game against SMU. By the time I finally got it on the screen, they were already up by 14 or 21 points. I can't remember exactly what it was. And you look at a team like Texas, who has struggled a little bit in their last couple games of starting quickly. That offense takes a little while to figure out. Thankfully, their defense plays well from the jump, and they keep them in the games. But, I said it in a group chat. I don't know that Texas's offense is built for this grind that they're about to face, going up to face a Clemson and maybe an Arizona State or something like that. Their defense is obviously ready. Their defense is national championship ready today.
Say, Kyle, it feels like I know what you're about to say. Say it. Come on.
No,
you were saying everything good, positive about Clemson and everything negative about Texas.
I know I'm waffling here. I don't know exactly what to do. If this was at a neutral site, I would definitely take Clemson.
Right.
Being that it's a home game for Texas,
Yeah,
I think that's going to be the kicker for me in this one. I'm going to take Texas here.
Speaking of which, I'm looking at this. Did y'all notice what channel this is on? It's on TNT at the weirdest time possible. 4:00. What is this?
That was a pre-season contractual agreement. I'm sure that somebody threw a lot of money to be able to host those first round playoff games on television.
His name's Ted Turner.
There you go.
These are going to be the 2 lowest rated games of the weekend. It's going to be terrible. Oh, Lordy. All right. So then that brings us down to 3, I believe, 4 games on December 27th. Oh, no, I'm sorry, you're right, I'm
Talk
sorry.
about Tennessee, Ohio State,
Tennessee,
which
Ohio
might
State.
be the most exciting game of that weekend.
That is absolutely true. I'm torn
think
on
so.
this. I'm torn on this. Like,
I am
Tennessee
too.
has some flashes of offense. Ohio State has no offense, but fantastic defense. I think I have to give the nod to Ohio State because it's being played in Ohio. And though Tennessee is in cold weather, I don't know if they are prepared for that. And I do think Ohio State's defense is just going to be a little too much for Nico, what's his name, and Samson to try to overcome.
I cannot believe you just said that. Did you watch Ohio State play against Michigan?
Yeah,
It
but
looked bad.
So it's a
That's
tale
a
of two
rivalry
teams.
game.
Does the Ohio State that beat Penn State show up, and the one that barely lost to Oregon show up, or does the Ohio State that just lost to Michigan show up?
And let's be honest, Penn State is not that good.
Uh,
And before you say anything, yes, I know they're in the playoffs. They're not that good.
okay,
Eh.
make your make your case. Or is
They're
this
just
another
not.
one where you just didn't do the homework and you're just going to go say something?
It would not shock me to see SMU, those ponies, go up to Pennsylvania and
Okay.
whoop some Nittany Lions.
Jerry, the
Would not shock
stage
me.
is yours. Make your case.
I don't wanna.
Oh, I know you don't.
I will state my facts and leave
Give
it
him
at
a
that.
break. The dog ate his homework. Okay, give him a break.
Yeah, the dog is fucking having a feast on his homework. Oh man,
Just make your picks.
Speaking of somebody having homework to do now.
Yeah,
fun to edit that
seriously.
so yeah,
Timestamp it here. I'm
Pat
flipping.
McAfee that one, guys.
Yeah, you did.
But no, I hear what you're saying, Jerry, on Ohio State, but I'll take Tennessee for this one. I think teams that out tough Ohio State beat them 100% of the time. Like, it's not even like we can sneak something in on teams that out tough us. Never. I think Tennessee is going to out tough them.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm basing my pick solely off of watching the Michigan and Ohio State game. That Michigan offensive line absolutely whipped that multi-million-dollar Ohio State front that they paid all that money for. So if Dylan Sampson gets going in this game and that Tennessee offensive line does what they've been doing all season, which is opening up holes that a Mack truck could drive through for Dylan Sampson, give me the Volunteers all day long.
I just don't know that Ohio State can run through Tennessee's defense like they want to. They're going to
Yeah,
put
I mean,
Will
won't
Howard
be
in a
able
lot
to.
of third down situations, and he is awful in third down situations.
Yeah, I mean, I know we talk a lot about Dylan Sampson here, but yeah, I think that's maybe the most underrated part of Tennessee, and what some of the media talking heads are not giving enough attention to is that Tennessee defense. They're going to be tough. They're a good defensive team.
This is probably the most intriguing first round playoff game out of all of them. So
You sure it's not SMU Penn State? You don't want to go into that a little bit?
no, I mean I'll even mark it here. SMU gets the win there, but as far as
I think
SEC,
Penn State by 21 or more.
golly,
Yeah, it's not. It might not even be funny. Like this game, you'll turn this game off after the second quarter.
sounds like we need to place a bet, my friend. Anywho, Armed Forces Bowl, Oklahoma versus Navy. I would have been very up on Oklahoma if Arnold was going to be staying, but since he's already announced that he's going to be in the transfer portal, I don't know if I'm as bullish on Oklahoma this go around. I do think that Navy is on the downslope, so I'm still going to stick with Oklahoma. I don't think they're going to be as productive, though.
Yeah, it doesn't make me happy to pick them, but I think Oklahoma has it a little more together. I don't think they need Jackson Arnold to win, unfortunately. Yeah, they beat Alabama. There's got to be something to that. If they can beat Alabama, they can beat Navy, and I think that's a safe pick.
Yeah, I gotta agree here. It was interesting to see this week that Jackson Arnold is in the portal. There's also somebody else that's in the portal. His name forsakes me right now, but the quarterback from Mississippi State jumped into the portal, so maybe a little
Van
foreshadowing
Buren?
there.
No,
Yeah,
Van
there
Buren-
you go.
I thought
Michael
Van
Van-
Buren was, who's the quarterback for Kentucky? Or what?
That's Vandergriff.
Vandergriff.
Grant Vandergriff. Yeah.
Bunch
Too
of
many
Dutch,
V's.
Dutch quarterbacks running around here.
So that might be a little bit of foreshadowing.
Yeah,
You know,
that's true.
Jackson Arnold probably came to Oklahoma for Jeff Lebby, and then he leaves and goes to Mississippi State. So, yeah, might just little crystal ball there on my behalf of where Jackson Arnold ends up. But it's Oklahoma. Navy's going to have a tough. They're going to have the Army Navy game this week. Lots of emotion, lots of energy. They're going to be beat up from trying to defend a triple option team just like them, and Oklahoma probably steamrolls them.
Right. Now, the Birmingham Bowl is probably going to feature the two most intriguing quarterbacks with Pavia and his name is losing me. What is his name?
Don't you disrespect him like that. His name
I'm
is
legitimately
Haynes King.
trying to.
Haynes
There
King,
we go.
yeah.
I legitimately was trying not to. I apologize.
The difference is Haynes King can put the ball in the air when he's not playing an SEC defense, like
True.
Georgia.
Right.
Vanderbilt. Let's be real. Vanderbilt has no defense. Like it's not their game. Even the games they won, their defense was not the reason they won the game in most cases.
So are you Tech as well?
Yeah, sure, whatever. Who cares? This. If this touches my TV screen, I'm throwing it out.
Well, you don't have many options on the 27th other
Yeah.
than
This is my
your only
workout
choice
window
is
for sure.
Yeah. Your only choice is going to be the nightcap on the 27th, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But yeah, give me Georgia Tech.
Man, Cody's gonna be working out for quite a bit. He's gonna watch the Armed Forces Bowl. He's probably not gonna want to watch this next matchup either, and then wait until 10:30 at night.
The Liberty Bowl. Where is the Liberty Bowl at?
I think Shreveport. No,
it can't.
No,
That's the Independence Bowl.
it's
that's
in
right.
Philadelphia.
That's right.
It's in Philadelphia. That's why it's got the Liberty Bell on the
okay,
logo.
That
yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense.
Well,
that makes sense.
Whew. All right. I'm back. I'm zoned back in.
But I'm just going Arkansas just because I don't know enough about Texas Tech.
Don't know anything about Texas Tech. I wish they were a team I could research, but I guess I'll take Arkansas.
Do you want to research Texas Tech?
I'll give you the cliff notes so you don't have to do the research. Really good offense historically, really bad defense historically. So that's Texas Tech in a nutshell.
Is Cliff Kingsbury there right now?
No.
Okay, then I'm taking Arkansas.
Yeah, that's pretty much. But I'm actually going to take Tech in this one. I think they're gonna spread Arkansas out, and I think they'll take it.
I'll be happy with that. Whatever.
Who cares?
Yeah.
So this is probably I don't know if this has happened before, but USC begins and ends their season in Las Vegas, going against A&M. I mean, they have been on just a bomb of a season where they just fell off the side of the Grand Canyon. I'm taking A&M.
I'm taking A&M too. I don't really know any reason USC can win this game, and if A&M loses this game, it's the same situation Florida's in. Like, your fans are going to want you to answer for that as if it was a regular game, because I feel like
That's true.
They will feel embarrassed to lose this game.
Yep, I mean, same thing I can say about Billy Napier and the culture he's trying to build over at Florida, having guys opt into the bowl game. It's pretty much the same thing at Texas A&M. Mike Elko has these guys buying into wanting more playing time and being on the field. I had to go back and look at that USC team. You know, Jerry, like you said, they started in Las Vegas against LSU. You got Miller Moss looking great. And then for one random weekend, I was watching USC play in the, now I guess it's Big Ten after dark. And Miller Moss wasn't even on the field. There was some backup quarterback in there. And I was like, what in the world happened here? So I don't know what happened.
In the middle of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad that, like somebody else told me today, it's going to be two actual programs playing each other, which I was like, you calling A&M a program? Hang on just a second there, buddy. We got a little bit to go before we get there. But yeah, I don't know if A&M and USC have ever matched up before. I'd have to go back and look at that, but I'm excited for this one.
Now the next one, which I think this is going to be one of the more boring bowl games, Iowa versus Missouri in the Music City Bowl. I think Iowa's just going to run the ball too much and is going to tire out Missouri.
Yeah, agreed. That ground and pound from Iowa is going to be everything you need to know in that one.
Yeah, sure. I agree. Like, I can't. This is another game. Like, why are they doing this to us?
This one's a reliable. Yeah. The Reliance Bowl.
Army has to go to the Independence. Before you move on, Army has to go to the Independence Bowl. We had made comments about the city of Shreveport earlier in this podcast. I think Army should take the rest of the Army with them to Shreveport to try to fix what's going on there. So
Good Lord.
those are not stars you see
Yikes.
underneath Independence Bowl. Those are bullet holes. So
Jeez.
Lord.
that place is so that y'all know the story of the USC played in the Independence Bowl. I think about it must be like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe even sooner than that. But point is, a USC beat writer went to Shreveport thinking like, oh, they have a bowl game there. It must be a nice city, Louisiana food. I'll go there and have a great time. Goes there, goes to the parking lot, and he's like, I feel like I'm in Baghdad. Like, I don't feel safe even stepping out of my car to get in the stadium to watch this college game. And when you pass the stadium, it feels like a Call of Duty map. It looks so abandoned.
Wow.
So
I didn't realize it was that bad.
Sorry, I just had to comment on it. I can't believe they still allow it to be in Shreveport. Like, you should have security escorts like in and out of your hotel.
You ever been to Shreveport, son? Good place to lose your keys and your wallet at the same time. Or whatever you said that episode. I cried. I was laughing so hard.
Avoid Shreveport at all costs. Drive through. Do not stop. Don't get out of your car. Not even for Torchy's, which is amazing. They have it in Texas. Just keep going.
You mean Torchy's? That's right outside of A&M's campus.
That's what I'm saying. Don't stop in Independence for it, or in
Shreveport.
Don't stop at Shreveport for it. Just keep going. They got them in Texas. So it'll be okay.
So speaking of crying, Alabama crying their way to the ReliaQuest Bowl to play Michigan, which is on cloud 9 at the moment. I don't know if Alabama's mind's going to be in it. I'm giving the nod to Michigan.
No, I think Alabama waking up in the middle of the game wins this game. I'll give it to them.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Alabama, but all I want to say to those Roll Tides out there is welcome to how the rest of the world lives. It's good to
How
have
we've
you
lived
back.
for the last 12 years.
Michigan only
Yeah.
plays that way against Ohio State.
True,
don't-
I think
That's true.
Yeah.
Now, before we even move the page, probably the best bowl game ever, Pop-Tarts Bowl. Who are we choosing to eat the big Pop-Tart mascot? Miami is my pick.
Yeah. Why would you pick anyone else in this bowl?
Right?
I gotta go
Yeah.
with Miami on
Miami.
this one too. Wow.
I had to
home
do a little
game for them.
mouth.
That 3:30 slot's looking like a great time to go to the gym.
I don't know. That's a fantastic one. I just the mascot for the Pop-Tarts, last year was their inaugural bowl game hosting, whatever. Fantastic job. That's how bowl games need to be played. Now Cheez-Its, South Carolina versus Illinois. I think the Beamers are gonna just be sandstorming it up and beating Illinois.
Oh yeah. Talent.
How?
Easily.
Skill
South
difference.
Carolina.
Easy skill difference on those two teams.
All right. The one that I'm hoping to get tickets for, LSU versus Baylor, is going to be a house divided since my parents and my sister went to Baylor. Seeing that Nussmeier is coming back for it, even though they're losing Campbell, I still like LSU for this.
Yeah, don't miss out on the other great factoid here. It's Aranda's reunion against LSU.
That's true.
So go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah. So don't forget that, Jerry. That's an important piece here.
Very important piece. And because of that, I'm just kidding. I'm not taking Baylor. I'm taking LSU. He's had a rough time at Baylor. I love Aranda, and
really
I love his personality and his defense. When he actually does talk about his defensive philosophy, he's amazing to listen to. I wish he'd go to the NFL. I think he'd have a fantastic time there. But yeah, I think this is just LSU with Nussmeier playing.
3 things from me on this one. Number 1, my pick is LSU. Number 2, I can't believe this hasn't been renamed the Texas A&M Bowl because I can't tell you how many times we've played in the Texas Bowl. It's shocking. And number 3, when you're watching this game in that 3:30 time slot where Cody's going to be at the gym, there is a Franklin High School product. The town that I live in is the starting running back for Baylor right now. So for a kid from a 3A high
Ooh.
school to play Division I football and become the starter is pretty interesting. His name is Bryson Washington, so y'all check him out.
That was actually my first Texas high school game, Cody. And we got to watch a kid get run down by like a dozen police officers for bringing a gun to within the stadium.
All right.
Just clarification: the kid didn't live in Franklin. Okay, let's not
That's true.
slander
That is-
Franklin like that. Okay,
I'm sorry.
Shreveport is
that-
leaking out. That's what I hear.
Yeah.
he was a transplant from Shreveport.
But it was actually a fantastic game. What was the office that they ran? Was it Wishbone?
They run the wing tee.
Wing
Wing
tee. Good old wing tee.
The slot.
very
Actually, they
interesting.
call it the slot tee. They call themselves the slot tee mafia
Mm.
because they will run
Okay.
all over you.
Now remind me, seeing that Georgia is over here in the quarterfinals, who's their playoff opponent with it?
You have, well, it's to be determined.
Well, thank you, Sherlock. But
Out of
seeing
Indiana, Notre Dame.
Yeah.
oh heck, I'm give me Georgia regardless of who the opponent is.
No Carson Beck.
Well, that's an asset. Oh, that's a good thing.
I
That's a
I
net
would agree with
positive.
you. I would agree with you when Gunnar Stockton first came into the game, but as the game went on, the freshmen started showing in him, which the ball that he just threw to the Texas DB that should have been a pick six. I
Yeah,
don't know
that's
where he
true.
was throwing that ball to, but
And
the freshmen started showing towards the end of that game.
I don't know, with a little prep time, do you think like
I
some
mean,
first
yeah.
team reps, you think maybe it
It's
gets
possible.
cleaned up? Notre Dame is not a bad football team. They're lost to Southern Illinois in the beginning?
Northern Illinois.
Northern Illinois.
Northern.
Their loss to Northern Illinois in the beginning of the season is damning, but it's not relevant, I think, anymore. I think this team has to be reevaluated as the team that takes care of business when they have to. I'll take Georgia, but if it's Notre Dame, I might have to reassess, depending on how they play against Indiana. I want to see how it goes.
Now, are we for sure knowing that Carson Beck is out? Because I've heard that he has an injury, but I don't think I've heard anything about the extent of it or how long he's sitting out.
They might
if
be
at all.
better with him out. Like,
I agree.
They might be. They might be.
Especially seeing that the game's not until January 1st.
I did see a tweet that was from, it wasn't like a Pete Thamel or anything like that, but I did see a tweet from an insider that said he would at least miss the first playoff game, might be ready for the second one if they advance. So,
and then you have a tough call to make. You're like, do we just 2014 Ohio State this and let it go?
Yeah.
Or do we?
depends on how the kid plays. If he plays well, then, I mean,
Can our defense help us do another 4 turnover event?
Yeah.
for sure.
Now, the
For
last
sure.
one, the Gator Bowl. I mean, this isn't even going to be a matchup. Give me Ole Miss.
Yeah, this needs to be redone. Like that, I don't know how they make bowl games now with the playoffs. I don't know if they've changed the rules at all, but they dropped the ball on this one.
Agreed.
They're walking Duke to their hanging right now. They're going to the gallows. Like
Now, I heard that Kyle's going to select Duke because of the whole Elko relationship. Is that correct?
No, Duke lost their quarterback too. Malik Murphy hit the transfer portal, so the guy that led them to the season that they had is not going to play in this game. So yeah, not a chance.
So Jerry, shocker to you, and I'm sure you'll learn a lot more about this in a few weeks, but Duke is another program that brings in a lot of money from basketball and
Oh, boy.
probably NIL.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, in fact,
What?
one of their alumni is the head coach of the Lakers right now, so he might give money to the program. Oh,
Ooh, maybe
So scary.
only Chicken Fingy Man have money. Where all other money come from? How does
an injury attorney.
yeah, the truck
Lord.
chasing attorney and the chicken finger man can fund the world in LSU fans' viewpoints, but Lord forbid a basketball program with a storied NBA history have anybody giving money to it.
Kyle, in this podcast, it's my bedtime.
Was he chasing a truck through Shreveport? Because that would just be great. Anyway, one game this week, just real quick pick: Army Navy, America's game.
Army.
Who you got?
Army,
Yeah, I agree. I think Army takes it pretty easily.
but
So
Navy does show up for this game.
it's gonna be a tough game. They're
Yes.
actually both pretty good this year, so that it'll be a tough game. It'll
Navy's
be
a little
lot
bit of frauds, but this game they're going to pull a Michigan, Ohio State. They're going to step up. They're going to be tough for this.
I will say that I know a lot of people don't really like it. I'm glad that they give them their own week. I think it's it's America's game, and,
I hate
and it
it
means
now.
a lot.
I hate
Yeah,
it
I know.
now. Now it's just terrible. Like I don't like the whole we freeze rankings thing. Like I don't like it's not even all their fault. Like they did that for the conference championship games, which is another topic we have to talk about is strength of schedule or conference champion, which one is actually more valuable and which one should they go forward with?
Strength of
But-
schedule, 100%.
Well,
But
they didn't
yes,
do it.
another time.
So
Well, no, duh, because it's the NCAA. It's people choosing things because they're stupid.
Yeah, that is a great debate
feelings.
that we'll get into probably Sunday or maybe next Thursday. Anyway, we'll get into that soon because I got a counterpoint for both of you on that. But anyway, we thank you guys for tuning in yet again to another episode. There was a lot of technical difficulties in this one, so we do apologize. I was faceless for the entire episode, and we'll work on that for next time. Not sure what happened, but for Cody, for Jerry, for myself, we thank you guys yet again for tuning in. Check out the Army Navy game this week, and we will catch y'all on Sunday. So long. And we're good. Okay.